Sometimes if there's any conflicts with a country, then people group the people from that country as part of it.
We can make it a little bit lighter and people connect with it.
When we came here, a lot of people were acting like we didn't quite belong here either. For me, it was, this whole identity that they were attacking. Everyone could find their inner child, or everyone could remember a moment they didn't fit in for any reason. People have experienced the same things you have.
Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz Podcast, where girls isn't about gender, it's about grit. We celebrate the dreamers, the builders, and the difference makers bold enough to start. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. Well, I want to open up with this today because oftentimes the journey to belonging doesn't start with fitting in, as we know, right? And I think all of us have funny stories about not fitting in. But it starts with feeling as an outsider. And so for many immigrants and first-generational families, the promise of the American dream comes with complicated layers, new cultures, new expectations, and the quiet pressure to redefine who you are while honoring where you came from. And so my guest today is an amazing author. I think you guys are going to be in for a fun conversation with her. We're meeting for the first time, which always makes this fun because we haven't had a whole lot of time to get to know each other. I think that's what makes these episodes beautiful. And so you will get to hear from her in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. And with that, I do want to make a mention to head on over to startergirlz.com. And why do I say that? For 3 reasons. 1, because if you have missed an episode, it is a great place to catch up. It's also a great place to sign up for our community newsletter, and you can stay in the know of all these fabulous episodes that go out. And then also, if you are an aspiring creator, an entrepreneur, or maybe you're in the thick of it right now and you want to know what your number one success block is that may be hindering your success, well, guess what? I've got you covered. You can go over there and take my 2-minute quiz, and it will tell you exactly what block may be affecting your success right now. So as I always say, head on over to startergirlz.com and do your thing. All right. So I think we're ready to welcome the guest on today. So my guest today, Margaret Gurevich, is an author whose work captures the humor, vulnerability, and complexity of growing up between cultures. And we just found out she's on 17 books. I know she's here to talk about her new book today. I was going to tell y'all about it, but I think I'm just going to let her do that in a few minutes because I want to let her have that moment to do that. So drawing from her own experiences growing up in a Russian immigrant family during the final years of the Cold War, Margaret brings authenticity and warmth to a story about belonging, resilience, and learning to embrace the many parts of who we are. And so, Margaret, I want to welcome you to Starter Girlz Show. I'm so excited to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's going to be so much fun. And it's so funny because I'm sitting here and, I don't know what it is about planning things out, because if we just jumped on here and I'd be like, hey, let's have this conversation, everything would run smoothly. But the minute I try to be intentional and plan, it's too much forced effort. I'm looking through my notes and I'm like, what are my notes right now that I needed for my intro? Well, as we're talking, I'm finding all my pieces here. I thought I was being organized, but it is what it is. So anyways, we're glad to have you here today. I think this is going to be a great conversation.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's talk about your book because obviously you've written like 17 books, which I think is so impressive because that's not an easy feat. But I really want to talk about this last one, dear Yasha's amazing bar mitzvah book, because I think this is the one we want to kind of talk about, your latest one. So tell us a little bit about how this story reflects maybe growing up in your own experience in a Russian immigrant family.
Yeah, so this book means a lot to me because so much is based on my own experiences. We came here in 79 from the former Soviet Union. And just like just like Yasha, in the 80s, there's a lot of, because of the Cold War, there's a lot of anti-Russian sentiment. So it was a struggle for my parents and me and my sister to I feel like really fit in, because depending where you are, sometimes people just saw you as Russian. Sometimes, actually at that time, mostly that's what they just saw us as. And, there's a lot of things that came with that. I think in general, sometimes if there's any conflict with a country, then people like group the people from that country like as part of it. So even though we had left the former Soviet Union for good reason, nobody wanted us there, as Jewish people. When we came here, a lot of people like were acted like we didn't quite belong here either. Yeah. And when you're a kid, I still remember when I was in middle school, like some of the kids, would make fun and say like Russian jokes or whatever. And I grew up always hearing about, we escaped, and like my grandfather was in the gulag in Russia and like all these things. And I would, try to explain to them, which I'm sure like felt amazingly well on 12 and 13-year-old boys, that when you're like, but don't you understand what my family went through? And what a tween and teen, no. They don't connect with that or the experiences, to them is just like what they see. And honestly, I feel like looking back as an adult, I don't even know, like, it wasn't even like, I feel now, did they really know what they were saying? I don't think so. I think it was just like the thing to do, that this was the enemy or whatever it was. Like, it was like play for them. Whereas for me, it was, this whole identity that they were like, attacking. I remember we read Animal Farm, and my dad, right? And I was like the only one in the class that knew like the whole real history. A lot of the kids were like, yes, it's symbolic. There's, the animals. But my dad always like, so I've heard those stories. So when we started reading this book, I was like, wait, I know that story. But to other people, it's allegory, like, what? This doesn't make sense. There's a horse, there's a pig, right. Whatever. But I understood it all. So yeah, so connected. So with Yasha, a lot of the things he experiences, even though it's very 80s, I feel there's a lot of that still today. Like that, when people come from other places, depending how they celebrate things, their culture, like people don't always view them as fitting in and belonging. Yeah. And for Yasha, that was a difficult thing. So he came here, tries to fit in, but because of his culture, he doesn't quite fit in. And not even just that, like he doesn't dress how they do in his suburban New Jersey, whereas where he moved from the former Soviet Union, he lived in Brighton Beach, New York for a long time. And that was more of like a Russian community, and people dress differently. So even when we first moved, like where he moves, it kind of similar to where I moved when I was a kid. A lot of people at the time, now I feel a lot of the kids, like brands kind of matter, but I don't feel they matter as much as they used to. Like people are also, at least with the students that I teach, are also like more comfortable with just their own style and being who they are. Yeah. And I feel at that time, though, was more brands. So I didn't really have that, right? So I would wear stuff. And I didn't know fashion. Like my parents, they're not from, they weren't born here. So they'd be like, you need to, wear this, like these corduroy pants with like whatever, this frilly shirt that looked ridiculous. But I didn't know. I didn't know any of that stuff. So, you stand out, like, even with minor things. So not even culture aside, but just your mannerisms and things.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say this too. And by the way, I have Russian friends here, which are so fun. Like I have a melting pot of friends from all over the world, that I'm good friends with and stuff, which I think is so fun. But it's so crazy to me that to think like that, because I'm a 70s child and I grew up in the 80s too. So I get, I never put myself in somebody else's shoes. I never want to say that. But I think it's so interesting because even as you mentioned something kind of back up when you were talking about how they didn't probably know they were doing this, but for you, it was huge. And I think I think as kids we do, because we do. It doesn't matter. Like we remember things to them. People will say things and you may to them, they probably forgot about it, right? And you're still remembering these things that happen. And so I'm pointing this out because I feel like as kids, let's talk about, okay, you're being an immigrant here, but just how kids, the bullying and the things that kids go through already, and then to have that on top of that, right? Whereas like I wouldn't even now, like my kids went to a charter school where we were probably kind of the minority at the charter school because it was a melting pot of a lot of different cultures. And, my kids were from the very beginning, were immersed in different cultures like that, because I didn't want them to be like, hey, to me, knowledge is power, and the ability to meet other people in other cultures and have those experiences. I will tell you the impact that's had because they're travelers now. My daughter's leaving for Thailand in 2 weeks. I mean, my oldest daughter was in Paraguay last summer. They're travelers and they don't think anything of it. I'm like scared to death. Like these kids, that's like, hey, I'm going to Japan. I'm going here, because they embrace the idea of cultures and stuff. So I can only imagine, what you had to go through, because it's hard being a kid, period, and I think there's growth in embracing different cultures and learning about people and stuff. And so, wow. And I know a lot of people that have stories like yours, like they came here and, and some of them later, one of the interviews that I just released last week, she was from Czechoslovakia, and, she came here in the late 90s, went to Miami and just had a little English dictionary, spoke no English at all. And so she shows up, and of all places, she goes to Miami where they speak Spanish too, because you got the Cubans, right? And she says, I get there and I realize they don't speak English either, Anyways, she said she ended up traveling around the country on the Greyhound bus, and she's fluent now. Obviously, she was actually running for a political office here down in Dallas. So yeah. Interesting story. So anyways, but good for you guys for sticking around and weathering through it. Right. All right. So one of the things I noticed in your, reading your a little bit about your dialogue is blending the humor with these deeper themes, obviously this fitting in. And one of the things that I think is that you do this through the eyes of a young kid, obviously. Right. And so it makes me think I have another friend who wrote a book about success and used a dog to tell the story. Like, used a little dachshund. It's cute. His name's Harley. Anyway, she uses this dog to tell these stories. And so I'd love to know, like, you kind of touched on this in your story, like, how you felt this was like a powerful way to explore these bigger life questions that we're talking about of fitting in, right?
Yeah, I think, it's a universal message. And I think that when, obviously, like we were just saying, like when we're younger, it impacts us more. And I think, so writing it from that perspective, it was kind of easy to go back into it. Like sometimes when we relive things that happened to us when we were young, sometimes we're just there again, and you could access like certain situations. And it doesn't mean you haven't made peace with it and you gotten over it. But just certain things in your life that made an impact, you could go back, and it's like part of you is still there. And to me, like writing in a boy voice too was interesting. I have a son. He's older. He's in his first year of college right now. But so I feel I can access the boy voice pretty well. And then that age group, that's the age group I teach pretty much. So I could get that too. But I also feel some of him is me just in boy form. So yeah, so I like it, and I feel when you can access like whether your friend like with the dog, it's things that people could connect to, right? Like, for example, with the dog, we love dogs. So now seeing this that's engaging, seeing this big topic from the perspective of a dog, if you want to connect with it. There's so many things we connect in that respect, right? So I think with kids too, when you write a book, like I feel everyone could find their inner child, or everyone could remember a moment they didn't fit in for any reason when they were in middle school. Like I think even if you loved high school, even if you loved middle school, I think you could go back and you could pinpoint something and be like, okay, and then you could connect to it. So I don't know, like I don't know what that says about me, that maybe it's easier for me to write as a tween. Like maybe I'm still stuck in that mindset.
Well, I think you hit on some really good points there. I think that fact that everybody can sort of relate, and it's interesting, Margaret, because I have these conversations with people a lot, and I don't ask that question ever, hey, were you bullied as a child? But it's interesting to me that sometimes people will offer that information, and you'll be really surprised that at certain times we all sort of have these little moments where we felt like we kind of were bullied or got picked on. I mean, I have stories. I can tell you stories of where it happened in my life. I think we all have those little moments. So it is very relatable, like you said. But I think also too, because, and this is my perspective, and I'm not just saying this from me looking outside in, that we can look at kids and make a heavy topic light. Do you know what I mean? Like we can make it a little bit lighter and people connect with it, right? Because it's like, oh, you want to listen because it's coming through the voice of something that's sort of innocent. You know what I mean? Like it's just,
for sure.
If you and I could probably go tell the story and it'd be like, okay, she's telling the story and it sounds like the mom telling the story, from here now. But there's something about this youthful person saying it, or this dog saying it, it just makes it kind of lighter. I think it doesn't diminish the message, but it makes it not so hard, And
I think it also allows kind of the reader to come to the realization at the same time as the dog or the boy, because if you're telling as an adult or a human in the other case, right, you already have this realization. You're like wise, so right. And as you said, then you could tell it's not a perspective that's in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're telling it from the outside perspective of somebody younger or an animal, then the reader could start coming to the realization, or even seeing like, hey, this is happening. Come on, do something. But as the boy, you don't know that yet, right? So I think that's also something that allows, I feel like, people to connect, and you're right, like make it a little bit not so serious and not so deep right away.
Yeah. I think if I were going to write like another message book, I would do it from a kid's perspective. I would try to make something like that. It's funny because whenever I create like, even with Starter Girlz, you're going to love this, because I have tried so many times to make Starter Girlz. And this is a podcast about stories about people having success. So I bring everybody. I've had professional athletes to musicians to CEOs of companies. Like I've had 5-star people on this show. But as much as I try to make this show totally all serious business, I cannot do it. There's a part of me, if you look at the whole Starter Girlz logo thing, there's a part of me that's like, we have to have a little fun and sass in that. It can't be all serious all the time, because life is not like that, right? You can be as professional and serious as you want, but if you are not having fun in life, like you just ain't doing it, ain't happening. So that's why it has to be like that, So I'm telling you this because every time I go to create like social media creatives and things, as much as I try to be like, we need to make this all look serious, I'm like, I just can't. The messages have to be fun. They got to be there's got to be a little youthfulness to them, a little bit of fun to them.
Yeah, of course. And my favorite podcast, like they deal with like real issues and real guests and all that. Right. It's also fun and you could laugh. And a lot of things are often too serious, and not that that's not necessary, Real topics matter, of course, but there's also a way to approach them. I mean, I feel so often we're hit over the head with having to be so serious when you take a serious topic or, a serious guest or whatever, but you find levity in it. It adds like a new layer and perspective. So
yeah. Well, and I'd love to know with this book, are you finding that it's both a book that like it's kind of spanning across generations, like you're finding older people are reading it, and then also younger people are gravitating to?
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to see, and I'm really hoping that continues. So the New York Mets are a big part of the book as well. So I'm wearing like my shirt and my Mets earrings.
Yeah.
So I became a Mets fan in 1986, which was the first and only time they won the World Series. But it was such hype and it was such a connection. So I feel like whether you're a Mets fan or not, you remember that.
Yeah.
So I feel like in that respect, like it's connecting people through sports. And I feel sports are just such a unifying topic. You know, I feel like even if you're like, don't agree with people on different levels or you just have other interests, a lot of times you both root for the same sports team and all of a sudden you're like, there's this connection, right? And the other thing with the book is that he finds a friend and an older man and a senior citizen as part of his bar mitzvah project. And I think I was always super close to my grandparents. They helped raise me. And I feel here too, my school, for example, where I work, does a lot of intergenerational activities.
Okay.
And the kids love it. The seniors love it. And you could all learn from each other. So I think this connection of the boy and Bernie, that's the senior citizen in the book, is something that other people could connect with. And just, I feel especially with families and the different generations, like, you have the child, you have the father, you have the grandfather, right? And if we're talking with the males or, others, then, there's things and you feel everybody is so far apart, right? So I'm Gen X. I think my son is Gen Z. And my parents are boomers. And you think that they may not be a connection, but a lot of times you realize that, people have experienced the same things you have. Doesn't matter what generation they're from, everybody has been there. And so in this case, he finds this connection with the senior citizen. Okay. He finds this connection with sports. So I feel like people who reading it also, they want to share their love of the Mets to their kids, to their grandkids, and just be like, this is great. He found this connection. With his grandfather, he's trying to find a similar language with his dad, and it's just not connecting. And I think that's something we all go through. All of us has had moments where we wanted, like, our parent or guardian to understand where we're coming from, and we just felt they did not, right? Yeah. So I think that this is like also a common unifying theme as well.
Yeah, and I was going to add to your whole thing about the sports because, yes, it is. I had a girl on my show a long time ago that was kind of a sports blogger, and we talked about this kind of thing, and which I thought was so impressive because a female, understanding sports. I'm just not a big sports fan. I played basketball, in high school and stuff, and I like watching some of that, but I'm not a big sports fan. So I'm always impressed when women are like really into that stuff. But you're right. It's very much a topic that, you could probably be like, so, hey, what team do you love? How's that? Like you could have that conversation where there's really hopefully no judgment that comes from it. So, and it's great even when you're networking, like it can be a great, like, lead in when you meet somebody of, hey, what's your favorite sports team or whatever, if you just didn't know what to say or whatever. So I agree with you on that. And I think it's neat also that you're talking about being able to cross those because you're right. I'm also a Gen Xer and I've got boomer parents and I've got millennial and all to the Gen Z to the whatever to the Y, whatever, they go all the way down, right? And there is those different, gaps. And sometimes it is hard to connect those, those gaps together. But yes, you can, if you dig and ask the right questions, I think you can find common threads, they're not everything, but there are some things that you can find that you could probably have some dialogue over, and
yes, for sure. I think kind of a lot of us like could find more commonalities than differences if we take time to listen to each other. So
I would agree with you on that one. I always have this, people laugh at me because I always have this saying, and you might actually appreciate this because I always say you can learn everything you need to know in life from conversations. You just need to talk to people. because we spend a lot of time thinking that we know everything when we really don't know everything. But if we had conversations, we would learn a lot about other people, And so that's why I love what I do with this show, because I don't know that if I wasn't doing this, that I would be able to have, I know a lot of people because I network, but I really feel like I get to meet a lot of people because I do this show. And it's neat because, when you're in a certain area, you really only have access to the people that are kind of around you, right? And so the really neat thing about this is I sort of get to go like all over the place, and I talk to people all over the world, and so I learn a lot about cultures and I will tell you at Universal, I tell people this all the time, is that you mentioned this in the very, very beginning. I'm getting chills about it now thinking about it, because you said something about that a lot of times the people associate the people with, like whatever's going on in the world, right?
Yeah.
And they think we're all different. But I will tell you universally, people are the same. We have different little nuanced things about what we do in our cultures, but we all have the same basic needs. And if you talk to anybody around the world, we all have kind of the same things we want. We want to take care of our families. We want to be loved and liked. We want to have food on our table, and you really, I never really, I don't know that I would have ever really understood that had I been not doing what I'm doing, where I've had firsthand got to talk to these people in different parts of the world and understand, things about what they do. And they have dogs and things like that, like I have a client, so funny, I have a client right now from Russia that's in Spain that I met her in 2020. Amazing young girl. She's like my oldest daughter's age. Oh my gosh. And she travels. I just watch her videos and her photos and sort of kind of live vicariously through her, because she goes on safaris and she'll go to India and do retreats for days there. She 30 days gone in India doing a retreat, but it's so funny because she's got these two dogs, and she goes to the rescue and she works at the rescue on the weekends. And she's as very much a 20-something-year-old, girl living in Spain right now, and she always tells me about how she loves like the designer, some of the designer things that they have here and stuff. And so my point to that is that she's very much like could totally come here and probably blend right in, and other than her accent or whatever, probably nobody would know, so
Right.
we're more alike than we're not, is my
Agreed.
point.
Yes, totally agree. Yeah.
So I would love to ask you, because I mentioned that you have written many, many books, and and I'm one of those people that I love to always talk about the wins and success. Obviously, you can tell this is a positive podcast. I like to highlight people and their stuff, but I also like to talk about things that we had to overcome to make these things happen, because I think it shows the realness of who you are and stuff. And so I would love to know, going through all these different books, obviously you figured it out. You know how to write a book. You know how to do this now. But what were maybe some of the challenges, like me, and maybe it was in the beginning, maybe it was in the middle, maybe it was doing the last one. I don't know. But some of the challenges you had to overcome to do this work.
Yeah. So, that's a great question, because I think when you write something, right, a lot of people think like it just happens right away, and you wish for it and there it is. But I feel like even like really successful authors, like people hear them and that, like as if it happened overnight. But no, like most likely they've had so many things that did not get them fame and did not. And this is, the whatever number book it is. And now people like hear of them, but how much sweat and tears like went through it till they finally got to that point. So I feel like that, like I've had smaller books published, and Yasha's Amazing Bar Mitzvah, and the one that was published published last year, called Ain't It Funny, they were very like books that I connected with personally in terms of like my own experiences. And so it started actually with like, I had these other ones. I've been trying to get an agent for years, because a lot of publishers won't take your book unless you have an agent that pitches it to them. So Ain't It Funny went through many, many revisions, and I would get feedback. I would fix it, see where else it would go. I took classes. I did so many things, because Ain't It Funny is about a girl who struggles with anxiety, and then she does stand up to try to combat the anxiety.
I had a feeling this was going somewhere. I was going to say, tell me about this book. Is this Ain't It Funny? It's making me, I don't know why. is making me think it's something to do with some kind of comedic stuff.
Yeah. So, right. So talking about what you said before about like serious topic, but has some like it's not a comedy, but it has comedic moments.
Yeah.
And her parents separated. So basically she tries to think because her dad wanted to do stand up and she felt like her mom didn't quite get it. And they're Russian as well. They own a Russian deli. So she tries to do stand up as a way to get her parents back together because she thinks like, oh, my mom will see how important this is and she'll see how important it is to dad and all this stuff. And also as a way to combat her anxiety, but she has really bad anxiety. So I did so many revisions of that. And I sent this book to, I don't know, I think like 100 agents.
Wow.
And I was going to give up. Like I was like going through one of those things. And I was like,
wow.
Obviously this is like terrible and whatever. And then one of my like best friends, she's like, have you seen like this agent? I think she would really like it. And I was like, well, she sounds really good. So why would she want me? And like, so I sent it to her and she did, and she really connected with it. And then she sold it to Penguin, I think within 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
And I feel like, so it was like months and so long with this book, right? And I feel like a lot of people, because I mean, it makes you feel bad. And like, you know,
Right.
A lot of people would have given up, and who could blame them because you feel like, oh, nobody's getting it. But I do feel that it just takes the right person to get it and to connect with you. And just like, I'm sure you've been there where you've read books and everyone says, oh, you have to read it. This is amazing. And then you read it and you're like,
Yeah, you're like,
you know, or vice versa. Like, I love this book. And your friend will be like, what are you talking about? I was like, so it's so subjective. So it's really, you know, so I was so lucky to find her and she gets me. And then Penguin bought Yasha as well. So, oh, right, The Journey. I got all caught up.
no, it's fine. Yeah.
So, so it was a long time, I feel, getting there. And now I feel super lucky that I have Ain't It Funny that came out last year, the hardcover, and then the paperback came out in September. And then now we have Yasha, and that's out. And both these books just mean so much to me because there's so much of myself in them. And I just feel the topics, too, are universal. Like the biggest compliment I got with Ain't It Funny was that, you know, I read in some review and, you know, sometimes like I read the reviews even if they're not good, and then I kick myself for reading the ones that aren't good.
Yeah, right.
But one of the best, the things that really stand out with me, even if people are like, oh, I don't know if this book was exactly for me, but I've never seen such a true portrayal of OCD and anxiety. And I'm like, hey, because that was really my goal. I've struggled with some of that. And I'm so glad that people could connect with it and feel that it's authentic. And with Yasha that's out now, with that one, so that's also been through a lot of edits. So I edited it with my agent, and then my editor at Penguin is amazing, and she's a big Mets fan as well. And she's also very big in stand-up, so she was able to put little comments, give me ideas. She knows about that too. So it's really, really lucky that I have this team that gets it. The illustrator for both books, same one, is great. The cover, like really, so here's like, I have it here, so the cover of like Yasha, it's like so
I saw it in the email that Andrea sent. Yeah, it's cute. The Mets thing. I like it.
The Nats, the Mets, everything, and just really captures it. So I feel that it's a long road, but when you find your people,
you got the right person. You're the right people. Well, I'm still hung up on the 100 people you sent it to because I mean, that, yes, and you're right. That would have been defeating for a lot of people. It'd have been easy to just go, I mean, on the 5th one to just go, I'm done. You know, I mean, I think you went through that, but see, then you landed the deal or got to the right person, and the right person got it to the right place. So thank you for sharing that, because we wouldn't have known that. And you're right. People often see the success. They see the other side. You know, I had a girl, Ripley Rader. She does the Ponte pants. They're like a really neat, long, sleek pant that make you look really long. They're supposed to be just anybody can wear them. Anyways, she told this story on my show about how I think she went like 10 years, and then somebody wore her pants on, I think, the Today Show or something. And then all of a sudden, boom, and so don't hold me to the exact date on that, because I feel like she told me, I just know the conversation was she went a long time before she got really recognized out there, and so that's the way it is. I mean, it's even like, when I talk about this show's been running since October of 2019. I mean, in the very beginning, and we went into a co-op space with foam on the wall, went live on Facebook, and didn't know what we were doing. And like, I don't get a lot of reviews on my things, but every now and then somebody will write some dumb thing or whatever. And I'm just like, whatever. Never, I mean, you learn eventually. And like, you think about you've written 17 books, you know what you're doing, you like your work. There's always going to be somebody that has something to say. Right. And so, I mean, the message here, I think, is that you have shown is the persistence and the grit to keep 100 people impressed. I don't even know if I would have the energy. I'd just be like, okay, I'm done. I'm not messing with another person today. So I commend you, my friend. I think to me, this is like making cold calls. I used to do that when I was in Mary Kay for 22 years, and I used to make cold calls, and no kidding, like, that is painful. That is a painful process. And I would have to like time myself and be like, you're going to do this in like this amount of time, and do not care about the results. You just focus on how long you're going to do and whatever happens in that time frame, because I hated it so badly. So good for you. All right. So I would love to ask you this question. In a world that often defines success by recognition and sales numbers, I would love to know from you, like, what does success look like for you as an author and a writer? Like, what does this look like?
So, okay, well, this is kind of silly. I guess this is, so my thing, like you had said that, and when you said it, this is what made me think of it. How the person you had with the pants, how somebody wore it and then it became a thing, which by the way I need, because I'm 4'11". So if something could make me look tall, I am.
I will connect you if you want those pants. They're amazing looking. They are amazing.
I mean, heck, 5'2". I mean, but anyway.
Well, you're cute. If you are 4'11", you are a cute thing, because I'm like 5'3". I'm not very tall either. I'm not, so I'm thinking 4'11". You are teeny. You are a little teeny person.
What I would give for 5'3", let me tell you.
You need some big platforms.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I would really want. So one thing, I have this fantasy of walking along the beach or through an airport and seeing a kid reading my book, and that has yet to happen. And if that happens, then I'm like, maybe the sales are not big. I don't know, but because right now, like, I don't see that many people reading it. Not in the, like, so they are, right? But it's not to the level that you may walk somewhere and that's the book that people have in their hands, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would, and then I would go up to them and I'd be like, oh, I wrote that. I have this whole little fantasy planned out, and then, and then the mom would be like, or her would be like, oh my gosh. And then, do you want me to sign it? So anyways, that's a big thing. Like, to me, if I saw somebody, like a kid reading it, then that would show me.
Then you would know it's out there, right?
I know it's out there.
It's circulating.
Right. So it doesn't even need to be like a bestseller, but that would be something. And the other thing would be, like, I would really, really love it if, so as a teacher, my supervisor orders different books that we read as a class, and, grade level books and whatever. So if a district ordered my book, enough for every student in that grade, and it was a grade level book to read, that would be the other thing. So those two books, those two things to me would be success in my mind. Like, here's a school that's reading your book. Do you want to do a Zoom visit because all our 6th graders are reading it, or all our 8th graders, or whatever? And the airport beach scenario, or wherever. I mean, it could be a restaurant, wherever. there could be reading this book. But that's what it would mean to me because that's how you know it's really up there and people are getting something from it.
I hear you. I get it. I mean, I think as creators, we all want our voice or whatever form that's going through, whether it's your book, the podcast, but we want people obviously to hear our message, whatever, because there's a message behind it. It's not just putting a book, you're putting a message out there and you want people to get it. So I get it. I totally get it. Different platform, but I get it all together. So what advice would you give for somebody maybe, and I think I could maybe lean into your 100 people that you sent it out to, but what advice would you give to somebody maybe right now who has a story they want to tell, but maybe they're afraid to put that pen to the paper or however they're going to record it, however they're going to do it? What would you say to them?
So, you know what? I would say to just try, because a lot of times I actually get anxiety when I get a new project and then I'll procrastinate because I get all nervous about it. I don't know, it's overwhelming, right? And the reason I have things at all is because I had deadlines. And if I have a deadline, then I make sure I get things done. But when I get really struggle, I start like giving myself little deadlines. I'll be like, okay, today you're just going to write a paragraph. And if you happen to write more, great, but just a paragraph. And eventually that builds up and then I could do a page and whatever, and then I'll get there. So I think that's part of it. Like I feel every person that says to me, I would be a writer too, I just have no time. Is it important to you? It depends, right? Because you have time to do whatever other activities you're doing, right? That are fun for you because you don't just sit home, right? There's other things. So it depends. So is the writer thing, is it a fear because you're afraid, like, whatever is like, because it's so overwhelming and I still want that. So what's stopping you? So if it's the fear of like, oh, but it's going to take a really long time, there's that old story that like, you could do this and, if you wait, or somebody says, it's going to take 4 years to go to college or it's going to take whatever. And then you're like, well, in the 4 years, in the 10 years, you'll still be the same age you are. That you're going to be, but you will or will not have done whatever it is that you want to do. Right. So I would say if this is really what you want to do, then start and don't think about the end game or the end goal. Just start with a paragraph a day. Start with outline. Start with a page. And even if that page is awful, at least you got the page. And even if you keep one sentence from it, because I've done that. Sometimes when I'm like, okay, my deadline, I want to write 3 pages today. And I write 3 pages. And maybe 2.5 of those pages need to be scrapped because it's just terrible. But that half page is a good start and it will get me somewhere else. So that's what I think. I think with writing or whatever your dream happens to be, start in small spurts and don't feel like you can't do it. If it's something you really want, you don't know that you can't do it. Why can't you? Right. I think we convince ourselves that, oh, it could happen for someone else. It's not going to happen for us, or we're not good enough. And I feel, especially as women, I feel we tend to do this a lot. But why isn't it you? So I think like you have the dream, you just keep at it and you start. And even if it's little bits, that's what I would say.
As you were doing that, I was thinking about my house. Do that with my house. I'm the same way. I have to do things in chunks because I get overwhelmed by things. I have a lot of great, I'm an idea person. So I have like a lot of great ideas. I might put me in a think tank and you got a problem to solve. I will come up with about 5 different ways we're going to get that thing figured out. But then when I start looking at all the steps that are involved, it's not that I'm lazy. I'm not lazy. I have incredible work ethic. It's that I will get overwhelmed by all of the information and the steps. I don't want a bunch of information. Give me 2 or 3 things at a time. So, the reason I'm saying my house is because I live with my husband and my son. So I'm in a bachelor pad. And so every day I have to get up and go, okay, there's a lot. So what one small thing can I do today and feel like I create a win and not beat myself up because I'm going in circles every single day, picking up after people. So That's a real thing. It is a real thing. I'm a big believer in celebrating the wins. And if you are a person that tends to get overwhelmed by big steps and lots of things, I almost think it might, I don't want to label people, but we have a lot of ADHD in our house. And so I think sometimes there's a little bit of that. It's just that overwhelm comes in. The little small blocks and steps are very, very good to do. So thank you for sharing that, because I was listening to you and I'm like, I'm feeling you, girl. I'm feeling you.
I'm like that with my house too. My husband does the laundry and I have to sort it.
Oh gosh, laundry. I hate laundry.
Yeah. And I have baskets and baskets and baskets. And I have to set my timer for 30 minutes. And that's how I handle it. I can't. Otherwise, I walk in, I see all of them, and I walk right out. I can't.
Baskets are good. I tell you, the only way, because I start and I won't finish. Like, they'll sit in the washer. They don't move, right? So, like, the best way to do laundry in my house for me is to just say, I'm going to do this hamper today. I'm working on just this hamper. And then tomorrow, the next day, just do this hamper. If I do that, then at least I get a sense of completion in the whole thing, because I'm the same way. And in my house, that stuff I'm telling you, it will pile. When my kids were all here, oh my goodness. Like, I'm just like, the other day, in fact, I think I told them, I'm like, you people need to do all of your laundry. Just take your laundry and do it yourself, because your socks alone make me nuts.
Yes, for sure.
So I get it, girl. I get it. If there was one message our readers could take away from, Yasha's amazing bar mitzvah, what do you hope that message would be for them?
I think to learn to appreciate yourself and accept yourself for who you are, all parts of you, because we all have something that we can offer others. So, learn to appreciate yourself. I feel he learns that. It took me a very long time.
Sure.
Still learning to be okay with who I am. And I think, he learns it a lot sooner than I did. I sure did not know that at 13 years old.
Yeah. And I don't think any of us did, honestly. I think it's definitely a process for sure. So this is I think this will actually kind of segue into my fun, lighthearted question, because I think you're going to like this. So if you could go back to your 13-year-old self, what would you say to Margaret?
I would tell her that not to take, what all these people say so seriously. A lot of them, probably all of them, are not comfortable with who they are either. So, it's kind of a front that is just easy to pick on something that, is so obvious or whatever. So, keep doing what you're doing, and, maybe don't procrastinate so you could do better in math. But
So yeah, I've never heard anybody say that one. I love that one. I don't ask this question often, but I do love this question because I think it's so fun to reflect. Like, I love that you said that people are not comfortable, because I say that all the time. People deflect a lot. They project and deflect, and I think when people are picking on other people, it's because there's something in there they're kind of wrestling with that you're triggering or whatever it is, that brings out. So good for you. And I think that's a great message to put out there. So, so if you weren't writing books, what would you be doing? What other fun thing would you be doing?
I like hiking. It doesn't have to be super steep, but I like really long hikes. I like long walks.
Yeah.
I love my favorite kind of walks. There's this place in Rhinebeck, New York. It's it's a big, a cement path. I don't know what you call it, but it's along the water. So those are my favorite places to walk, whether it's wooden slats or a big cement path, straight. I love that. I watch a lot of TV and learn different shows.
Are you a series kind of girl or a movie girl?
Probably these days more series. I like the movies, but it's just, I guess you could watch them at home too.
Yeah.
But that seems like a bigger commitment. I could watch 3 episodes of one show and that could equal 3 hours.
Gotcha.
or
you're covering more territory by doing the series and the 3. Like in your head, you're like going, you went 3 wins because I got 3 episodes in that time. Like you're covering territory.
Yeah, and I have a cat too, and I love being with him. I was hoping he would come in, but he's clearly very busy.
So funny. It's funny because to talk about shows, like I love series, but then my brain goes, if I start this, I have to finish this damn thing, and I'm not going to have time to finish it. But I could sit down and watch a movie and be done, and I'm just done. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's like I was telling someone the other day, because I've had a lot of like actors on the show, and I was like, there have been like 2 series that I've completely watched from beginning to end. And one was Sopranos. That was my favorite. And then I did Ozark, and I watched that one from top to bottom. And those 2 are like my favorite all-time ever series shows. But I totally, like, we didn't start Sopranos till it had been out for a while, and we binged it. We rented it on Netflix, watched it, and then we watched the final series when it came out. And then I kind of did the same thing with Ozark. So once I get into one, and if I like it, the binging starts happening, because we're like cranking those series out, like talking about. I started watching one, the C Word with Laura Linney, the one where she has cancer.
Yes, that was great.
Yeah, I started watching that one. I'm like, actually, I love her. Her personality just cracks me up.
It's very good.
But I started watching that, and now guess what? I've been so dang busy, I have not been able to get back in there and pick back up. I'm like knee deep in the middle of it, and I need to get in there and finish it. So, well, Margaret, you are awesome. So if our audience wants to grab a copy of the book, or maybe they want to learn about the other books, where do we want to send them?
So my website, margiewrites.com, has all places where you could get the book.
Okay.
And also, if there's any indie bookstores nearby, support your local indies and ask them if they would carry it if they don't have it. But my website has events on it and different things about my books as well. So margiewrites.com.
That's a cute website. I like it. And we'll make sure when we get the show notes put together, we'll get the links in there so people know how to get to your website and they can pick up the books or follow you or whatever from there. So this has been fun. I've enjoyed chatting with you. Love your energy and all the zest you're kind of bringing to all of this. It's fun. And so appreciate you sharing your journey and telling us a little bit about your creative work and what you're doing into the world to make a difference. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun, and the energy right back at you. I love your energy as well. So
thank you. Thank you. Of course, to our audience, we appreciate you, love you. Hope you found this episode both inspiring and informative. And if you did, you know what to do, all the things. We do the like, the share, the subscribe, the comment, all those things, right? So we can keep sharing all these fabulous stories. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.